Hey, welcome to Simple Honest Focused, a conversation on how the simple gospel brings us together in honest community focused on God's mission. So, my name's Jordan, as you know.
And I'm Rod. Thank you for joining us on this video trip through these conversations. We've gotten to where we look forward to these conversations every time. Jordan is at his house on his couch, and I am in my garage. You can see my lovely garage door behind me. So beautiful. But anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about, Jordan, let's chat, man. Let's talk about some stuff dealing with community. Last time we had some good, I think it was good. We had some good laughs, good talk on just the gospel and how the peace of God guards us, that kind of thing. And so if you didn't watch that video, check out last episode of Simple, Honest, and Focus, and share it with a friend. I think it could be encouraging to people,
or at least good for a laugh or two.
We enjoyed it. I don't know if anybody else will laugh at it, but we did.
I think I watched it like 3 times just to relive the laughter.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I've watched the little blooper reel you threw in there at the end of our Sunday.
Saw that, yeah.
I watched that a couple of times, and that was pretty funny. That was interesting. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about community. Next week we'll talk about mission, but today we're talking about community, specifically in the area of just going through something difficult in community. And as we were talking before about this video, we both were thinking of people that we knew in our lives that were suffering in different situations, whether something going on with work or family and kind of relationship or something. And I was sharing with a friend of mine who's been very recently going through a terribly difficult situation in their life. And one of the things that it kind of, both of our, stories of people that we know, it goes kind of back to like, who's in their life, who's pouring into their life? Like, who are the people that have some, do they have healthy community? Like healthy biblical community, like people in their life that really help them walk through difficult times. And I think for the most part, a lot of the answer is no. People that it's sad when somebody's going through a seriously difficult situation and they don't have people in their lives. When I'm talking with people and they're falling apart, one of the first things that I ask is who in your life is like, are God's people in your life? Like, you need the word of God. You need prayer. Like, you need God's people. You need healthy community. I was making some notes about this video. One of the things I wrote referring to a healthy community, every possible situation that you come across will be met with positive and biblical advice and support. So you can ask yourself, like, okay, so maybe I don't know, do I have good community in my life? And you can ask yourself, well, when you hit a speed bump, roadblock, pothole, or whatever in your journey, in your story, do you have people in your life that will help you with positive and biblical advice and support? I was thinking of Job. Job, obviously, if you've never read the book of Job, I know Jordan, you have, but if somebody's listening, they haven't read it. Job just suffered severely. It was horrible. And Job 14:1, Job said, man who is born of woman is few of days and full of trouble. So that's true. We can all attest that, man, we are full of trouble. Like, our days are few and our trouble is a lot. Job had some friends in his life, and they tried. They tried a little bit. They didn't really do that great. They tried to participate in his suffering. They tried to share in his sorrow. They tried to walk with him and in the midst of that, but really they failed pretty miserably to help make sense of the pain that he was going through. And so we all go through pain. We all go through terribly difficult situations. And I was thinking last time we talked about some definitions of a couple of words, joy and rejoicing. So I thought of the definition of cope, and I thought of the definition of suffer. Now, these aren't, universally applied the same way in every situation, but one of the definitions of cope was to deal effectively with something difficult. And I think the word in that definition that kind of stands out is dealing effectively.
Yeah.
When you're suffering through something, now one of the definitions I came across with suffering was to experience or be subjected to something bad. So cope and suffering kind of go hand in hand, but if you're in good community, whatever your pain is, you either suffer alone or you can cope in that reality that you're in, that difficult time. You can cope in community. You can deal effectively with it. A lot of the people we know in our lives, they don't deal effectively with hard times. Earlier I was talking about how you can ask yourself if you have healthy community in your life. Another thing you can ask yourself is the circle of people, the people that are in your circle. Because of that circle of people, are you able to, whenever you're experiencing trials or difficult times, because of that circle of people that you call your friends, are you growing as a person, or are you plateauing, or are you in decline? And life comes at us very hard, and you want to have people in your circle. You want to have solid, really biblical community in your life, to where whenever you hit when the sorrow button starts blaring in your life and everything falls apart, your circle, your people, your community that you surround yourself with, they're going to determine whether or not you manage to survive well in this time of suffering. Jordan, what are your thoughts on any experiences you have, or somebody else? Or
Well, I think question that popped into my mind, I think that some people might have, is just like, how do I find that solid biblical community? Because we talk about it, but how do we actually find it? If someone's listening to this and going through something difficult, like, how do they find that solid biblical community that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think the key to that is you got to open yourself up. You got to let life start writing some hard questions in your life. And whenever the hard times hit and sorrows come, trouble hits, like, you need to ask yourself some questions, like, who in my life? I was thinking of some of the people that I know. They're I would say they're friends, but I don't know them too well. They have their own circle of friends, and nobody in their circle of friends is really, really solid biblically or spiritually, that kind of thing. And so when, because people will say stuff like, well, I got community, I got my friends, like, we've been friends since grade school and we're always doing stuff together. But whenever you're going through a difficult time and you come face to face with maybe some hard mental reality or spiritual reality, maybe God is doing something in your life, and you go to one of your friends and you say, man, I think God's working in my life right now. There's a lot of people that have friends from work or whatever that are going to be like, you're going crazy on me now, and I'm not interested in talking about it like that. Or they might be like, dude, whatever, just have another beer and let's move on.
Yeah.
But really positive, strong community, those relationships, you gotta get those in your life. And you really, like, your question is a great question. Like, how do you get that? Like, it doesn't just show up.
Yeah.
Just like, man, it doesn't just, like, you don't open the pantry and you're like, oh, I got great biblical solid people in my life. They don't just fall from the sky. I think if anybody's listening to this and they're maybe kind of doing some inventory in their heart and in their life, and they're thinking, I don't really have solid people in my life. Anytime I'm talking to somebody and they're going through a hard time, I said before, is like, who's God's people in your life?
Yeah.
They're like, I don't have anybody. Sometimes it takes a courageous, bold step to reach out. One of the hardest things to do is to walk away from some type of circle that's destructive, like some kind of painful, destructive circle that you're plateauing or you're declining as a person, and go find a circle of people that can build you up and support you and let you walk through crisis, and they come around you instead of push away from that. See, I think one of the keys with solid biblical community is when, if you, Jordan, if you're going through something, you're suffering through something,
No.
the people in your life, if you have good solid support in your life,
Mhm.
they're not going to push away from you as you suffer.
Yeah, they're gonna like bring you in
Jordan,
closer.
hey, come close to
Yeah.
me. Like, make sure I've told people this, you've told people this when they're suffering, when they're going through something, like, hey, call me every day until you get through this. Like, let's pray together. Let's open up the Bible together, that kind of thing. So if people are going through something, some difficult situation, and the people in their circle are pushing away from them during that trial, that's an indicator that you got lousy community in your life.
Yeah. And I
And
think, yeah, a lot of people might say, well, and and guys, while I'm saying this, I know this because I've gone through this. Like, you might be at a church and you might say, okay, I have a good, Sunday school class, or a good, what is small group. Sorry, I've lost the words of old past and gone with Harbor City's words, but what I'm saying is like, I didn't think that I was in like a detrimental community, or I didn't think that I was in a plateau community, you know.
wow,
But when what happened is, I had to do the same thing. Is I had to take a step and go towards something that I was honestly praying, and saying, God, I want this type of community, and searching and searching and searching. And so finally I found it, and I said, okay, I'm gonna have to go, and take that step.
yeah.
And I didn't think I had a bad community, or even a plateauing community. I thought it was just good because,
Oh, okay. Because
yeah,
it's in church. It's around churchy stuff.
exactly. And these were people that, I would go over to their house sometimes, but it goes down to that thing that you were saying, is that, you know, if I had trouble, I wasn't going to call these guys.
Yeah.
Um, I mean,
That's a
because,
good indicator right there.
yeah, I mean, as I look back, like, I'm like, I don't understand how I didn't see it. I think, like, when you're in that spot of like, I'm in a good churchy community, I'm at, so and so church, and I'm leading a small group or a discipleship class or whatever. Like, I have people, but do you? Like,
Yeah.
are you, like,
And
do
I
you
think,
know? Go ahead.
yeah, just thinking about what you're talking about, like, it's hard to find that for a lot of people. I think a lot of people just won't ever get that. A lot of times pride will stand in our way, and we don't take that. I think too, like, part of it is, you got to take a step towards that.
Yeah.
I think strong biblical community too also is very attractive, and so it's going to grow. I think people are going to be drawn to it. People are going to be like, you have a set of friends. I don't have a set of friends like that. Like, I feel like I need that in my life. And, and it's like this open door of like, man, you can come, like, and it's a lot. The reason it's like this is because it filters through the gospel. It's how Jesus is. Jesus says, look, if you're heavy laden, if you're burdened, you come to me
Yeah.
and we'll give you rest.
Yeah.
But we never just do that on our own. Like, we come to Jesus and he's like, yeah, come to me and I'll give you rest for your heavy burdened soul. But he also puts people in our
Yeah.
lives. Like, Jesus is saying, look, I'm going to put a neighbor in your life. I'm going to put a coworker in your life that's walking with me, and you're heavy laden and you're burdened. Your soul is in anguish because stuff you're going through.
Yeah.
And I've put people in it, like, you need to, like, God's drawing people in. So God draws people to himself through the gospel, but God also draws people to himself through others, through community, through believers that he puts in our lives. And so, I think that's one of the key things to finding and being a part of solid biblical community is you got to find it. And a lot of times, if you're needing that, honestly, I think just because God and his goodness is gracious and kind to us, it'll find us. I think if somebody's listening to this and they're really wanting some genuine community in their life, I just don't think they're going to need to look far, because I think it's going to find them.
Yeah.
It's just because it's part of God's plan.
Yeah. I think, and I do want to say this too. So before I forget, like, well, as I said, before I found like this, like before I found Harbor City, in this biblical community, like I I love the churches that I was at, and I love the people. And this is not anything trying to throw shade at them or
Right.
anything like that. Like, but this is something that I found that I just I know that and I've told you this, I know numerous times, is that you know I've grown so much since finding people that literally will call me and say, like, the the other day, Bradley sent out like an APB on me because I was dug into homework and stuff like that, and I had 10,000 texts from like Caitlin, Jonathan, all these people blowing up my phone, and I'm looking down at my phone, I'm like, what is going on? And I called Bradley. I was like, dude, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. But the thing is that, when I don't know, like we're just so close and we're so connected. And it's like, if he knows me, and he knows like if something's wrong or something like that, like he knows my weird, something slightly, that's off. He's like, oh no, like, his antennas go up, and he's like, what's going on with Jordan? This isn't his usual thing. Um,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, but to find people that are like that, and to really just show you, the truths of the gospel, the truths of our God, through just everyday conversations. Nothing like, I hate using this word because it sounds like we're like degrading churches, but nothing churchy, but just living life with each other.
Real
And
life stuff.
yeah, and but at the same time, still displaying and declaring the truth of the gospel in our everyday conversations. It's really cool. Um,
Yeah. And
and yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, God puts people in our life to help us walk through that. You have people in your life. I have people in my life. And that's because we need people in our lives, because we do suffer. Like, there's like
Yeah,
trials are right around the corner. Like, the
yeah,
trials of this life are left and right. One of the things that one verse that I love, love a lot of verses. I guess I'm supposed to, right? I'm a pastor. But
sure.
in John 16, Jesus is talking about just the tribulation and the trials and everything that are going to come. It says, I have said these things to you. This is in verse 33 of John 16. I have said these things to you that in me you may have peace. In the world, he says emphatically, in the world you will have tribulation, but
Mhm.
take heart. I have overcome the world. And see, I
Yeah,
believe that verse. And how cool is it to know that you have other people in your life that believe that as well? That, ultimately, we can face anything that comes our way because Jesus faced the ultimate suffering for us in our place. He died for our sins.
yeah,
And so the conqueror of the grave, the conqueror of death, can look right in the face of any suffering and says, nope, I win this match.
yeah.
And we can stand in his shadow with other people in biblical community and walk through whatever comes our way, knowing that we're going to be okay. In First Peter chapter 1, which is a book dealing with people who are suffering, it says, in this you rejoice, though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, which is more precious than gold that perishes though it is tested by fire,
Yeah.
that genuineness of your faith may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus. So yes, going through suffering, you need solid people in your life. You need community in your life. But ultimately, what we really need is Jesus. And
Yeah.
Jesus comes in, he draws in close to us when we're going through our suffering. And not far behind him are going to be his people.
Yeah.
I love you so much that I'm going to put people in your life that are going to help you. They're going to walk with you. You're going to cry through the worst things you've ever cried through,
Mhm.
but that's okay because you have my shoulder to cry upon, and you have my people too. So, any other thoughts before we wrap it up, my friend?
Yeah, dude. Like, I was thinking about this too. Like, beforehand, like we do our little talk and just to kind of figure out how to, kind of how this conversation is kind of going to look, although we never know how it's going to end. Um, but you asked me, to think about like times that you've suffered with true biblical community, and it was hard for me to think about it because I was like, I don't know, but I realized as we were talking that I really think the reason why it was hard for me to think about how like the things that the things that I was suffering is because I really, yes, I suffered through some trials, but yet there were people right there, and it didn't feel like I was going through that stuff. It made it so like it was so, I don't know. It was. Go ahead.
So you think that if you just had really healthy, solid biblical community, that at that onset, that question of think about a time when you've experienced, suffering but had solid community, you think you'd be like, oh, that's an easy question. I can list two or three times where I've gone through suffering and I've had solid community in my life. It's almost like it would be easier. You wouldn't have to think as hard because you're like, oh yeah, I remember because I was going through this, and then these people did this, and they were here and they were there. And
yeah, well, what I was going to say is more like I didn't even feel like I was suffering, honestly, because people came and were on my, like they came up to my side and was there walking with me through it. It wasn't that I was suffering through this alone. It was different than all the other times and things I could compare it to in the past where I was going through trials and suffering, all this stuff by myself. And yeah, like I had my dad or something like that, but yet it was different when you have these people that literally just will grab you and just walk with you and cry with you or whatever. Because in that moment, it's not you going through it on your own and crying on your own and saying, Jesus, I'm suffering. It's saying, Jesus, I'm suffering, and knowing the love of Jesus, but knowing the love of Jesus through his people as well, and helping you in that.
Good.
Yeah. Anyway, my last thought.
What a great conversation this has been. We're all going to experience suffering, and so if you're listening to this, watching this video, and you want somebody to talk to or holler at, go to our website, harborcity.life, and find our emails. Mine's just rod@harborcity.life. Shoot me an email. I'd love to, if you don't have any biblical community in your life, maybe it's time you really think about that and seek that out. So our church would, welcome you with open, loving arms.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. We all make mistakes, but we got each other, and that's what we need. We need each other. So, Jordan, any other thoughts before we just land the plane? And
not really, man. I mean, if you're not in Mississippi or whatever, and you want to look for that biblical community, still reach out to us. I'm sure with the, with things he knows, I don't know which way my finger's going to point, but anyway, things that he knows, or people he knows, and people that, or people that I know, we can help you find that. Mine's not as simple as Rod's email, so you might have to click the email icon, but
that's all right. We'll put our email addresses in the video description here. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic rest of the week, and make sure you check out our Sunday morning video. And all right, is that it, Jordan? You got it?
That's it. I'll see you guys next week. Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.